Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Linnea and thank you for watching. So today's video has been highly requested. It's all about applying to law school. So I actually did this video in two parts and it's not so long. So today's video is going to be about all the things that you need to think about or consider or do before you actually apply to law school. So before you started the application process. And then my next video is going to be about the actual process itself. So yeah, hopefully it is helpful for you guys and let's get started. I'm not really going to tell you about the full process because I'm sure you can find the actual, all the steps required and all that stuff. But the first thing I would tell you is make sure you know the process and make sure you know all of the dates that everything is due. So I wanted to get in to start for September 2015, so I had to apply by November 1st, 2014. My first tip for you is make sure you know the process and all of your dates because you don't want to mess that up and then not get in for the year that you want or not have everything ready in time. So make sure that you know. And like for references, for example, I think you have to have reference letters. You want to give people like a couple months to write them for you so it's not last minute. So make sure you know when everything is due and when you have to apply by. So that's my first thing that's probably the most important. Before you apply to law school, I would suggest making sure that you keep your marks up if you're doing like an undergraduate degree or if you're doing some other kind of degree before you go to law school, because obviously when you apply they're going to be looking at your marks. So make sure you try and keep them up. In my last 2 years of my undergrad, mostly, I was really trying to keep my marks up, and especially in my last year. At least in Canada, I found that most of the law schools, if not all of them, take kind of a holistic view of your application. So they're kind of looking at everything. So if you have like lower marks maybe, but you have a really good LSAT score and you did a lot of volunteer work, then I think you'll be fine. But I would suggest keeping your marks up just because then you don't have to worry about it. You know that you're good on that front. So that's my second suggestion. As well, before law school, try and do some volunteer work. It looks great on your resume in general, and it's gonna look really good on your law school applications, and it's just a really good thing to do. It makes you feel good. It shows that you do something outside of school. You're helping people. It really says a lot about you when you do volunteer work. I personally didn't do a ton of volunteer work before I applied to law school. I had definitely done some, but I also worked during my undergrad, so I spent most of my time in school and at work. It was hard for me to get in a lot of volunteer hours, so I understand that it can be very difficult. But just try and get something in there, try and do something. The last thing I would suggest before you apply to law school is to get in some extracurriculars. Again, with volunteer work, it shows that you do something other than just school, which is really important. It shows that you're interested in other things, that you're a well-rounded person. So I would really suggest doing some kind of extracurriculars, playing sports or playing the flute or whatever you do, even if it's just painting in your free time or something like that, something to show that you do something besides just school. And work can also be something else that you do, especially if you're doing it to pay for school like I did. It's definitely something that takes up a lot of your time but that you need to do. So there's that too, but show that you get some enjoyment out of life other than just doing school all the time. That would probably be everything for before you apply to law school. What I will say about references is if you're getting reference letters, a tip that I got from one of my professors in my undergrad is when you're going to ask someone, this is just for like jobs in general or any time you're asking for a reference, ask the person if they can give you a good reference, not just a reference, but a good one, because it can mean the difference between, getting someone who says, yeah, they were okay, and getting someone who can really say some good things about you. And it doesn't have to be super long, like I'm not one of those people who is always seeing professors in their office hours and talking to them in my free time. Like I never knew any of my professors that well, but keep in mind, when you're in your last year of your undergrad or even in your second last year, like try and make those connections. Have that in mind when you're in school so that you do, you pick a class. You should go to every class anyway, but make sure if you find one professor that you think would be a really good reference for you, go to every class, make the effort, participate, go to their office hours, do whatever you have to do to kind of build that relationship and make sure they know who you are. And you don't have to be best friends or anything, but you need them to know who you are and to remember kind of the skills that you have and what you brought to the class. So try and build those relationships when you're in your undergrad or with someone that you work with or whatever it is, whoever it is. try and do that ahead of time so that you're not scrambling and you're like, well, I don't know who I'm going to use. You know, so that would be something that I would definitely recommend. And make sure you ask if they can give you a good reference. And ask them ahead of time so they're not scrambling. So that is everything that I think it would be helpful for you to consider before you start applying for law school, but after you've decided that you want to go. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss my next video, and stay tuned for that one, which is all about the application process itself. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!